Hey guys, I thought I'd make a video on this weird waterproof plane called the HLK-31 from Banggood. But first of all, let's go and take a look at some line of sight footage, and then we'll come back and take a look at it on the bench and look inside and check out the specs afterwards. So this thing's designed to take off and land on land or water, and it does a pretty good job of it. I think that's probably one of the reasons I find it so much fun. This plane comes with one of those little gyro flight stabilisers installed, so I'm flicking between manual and stabilise during this flight, and the stabilisation actually does work really well. It makes it really easy to fly. We'll take a closer look at that stabiliser at the end of the flying when we've got it back on the bench. On this model I've set the failsafe to activate the stabilisation and also to cut the throttle, in the hope that on the event of a failsafe it just glides down gently. I didn't expect to ever see a failsafe because I'm using the XM Plus receiver from FreeSky, and this receiver is pretty good for decent range on FPV, never mind line of sight. But at this point right here I have just got a failsafe and I'm not too sure why. At first I wondered if it was something to do with water getting on the receiver, because I had just touched down in water, but it regained the link fine, but I thought I'd just land it and just check it out anyway.
Looks like I took a chunk out there, whatever happened. Just out of that there.
No obvious signs of anything wrong, so I just carried on. Okay, so here it is back on the bench. Basically this thing comes out of the box pretty much pre-built. So the only things that you have to do, you have to glue this vertical stabilizer in place, and you have to place on this kind of strange rubber nose which just pushes on. So the motor is a 2212 2450 kV with a 6x4 prop, and it's designed to run on a 1500 milliamp 3S, which is exactly what I have been running on one of these, and flight time is around 8 minutes. So also with the kit you get bizarrely a couple of glue sticks, a reel of tape, you get some LEDs which you can stick on, but I didn't bother with those, and you get a spare prop. You get 3 servos, one for your elevator, one for your rudder, and then one that controls both of your ailerons. There is no carbon fibre spars in this, but I think with the design of it, it probably just doesn't need it. There is a bit of flex in the wing there, but it's never been an issue. On the underside here, you can see basically they've put this plastic skid on the bottom, which is, I think, just taped in place, but that does help it skid along the ground, along the grass. To get inside, all we do is twist this, and this piece of tape is here to pull the hatch open. And inside we have a 40 amp ESC with a 3 amp 5 volt BEC to power the flight stabilizer and your receiver. This does come with a Dean's connector as standard, so I've soldered on an XT60. And then what I've also done is I've just stuck my FreeSky XM Plus in here and hot glued some antenna tubes in place. The interesting thing is this flight stabilizer. So this actually came in, first of all, glued in place backwards, so there is an arrow on it here facing that way, and in the factory they decided to glue this in backwards, and I think someone probably did it because it was kind of hard to get this cable to the ESC. It's quite tight with that way round, so I think someone in the factory just turned that round to make it easier on themselves plugging the ESC in. Anyway, obviously the first thing you want to do is turn that the right way round. So this stabilizer has 7 pins on it, and the 4 on the right are actually your RC channels. So you've got your aileron, elevator, ESC and your rudder. The rudder for some reason actually wasn't connected when it first arrived, so I just had to plug that in. And then the next one along is your S-bus receiver. This is what was plugged in onto that channel there, which is a cable with the signal cable folded over. So at first I actually assumed that was just going to be for powering LEDs or something like that. But no, that's for your S-bus receiver. Then the next 2 pins, I'm not too sure exactly what they're for. One of them does power the receiver, but obviously is not for the receiver. And then the first pin doesn't power the receiver at all. So my suspicion is that that is probably a 3.3 volt power source, and it's for a GPS receiver, because this stabilizer is designed to have 3 flight modes, which is manual, stabilized, and GPS return to home. I'm not too sure why you'd want to use GPS return to home on a line of sight model, but there you go, it has it. To be able to control your flight modes, you simply need to set up a switch on channel 5. If you're going to use GPS, obviously you would need to use a 3-way switch, but I only use 2 modes. So channel 5, when it is set to +100, that's manual, and then when it goes to -100, that is the stabilize mode. If it was to go 0 in the middle, that would be GPS return to home. As to how waterproof this plane is, I'm not really too sure. It's definitely not fully waterproof. You can see their attempt to make the ESC waterproof basically involved someone going a bit crazy with the hot glue gun on both ends trying to seal that up. And I think also the fact that everything in here is on raised platforms, so if water does get in through here, which it does, water does come through here, and you'll find it a bit wet inside, the water kind of tends to sit around the bottom here. Now there's obviously no waterproofing on these pins here, so if that gets wet, that is definitely not going to last. So yeah, definitely not waterproof, but splash proof I'd say yes, and I think the servos are meant to be waterproof. The CG on this model is basically around where this step is on the bottom of the plane, and you do get CG basically by shoving this 1500 3S right up to the very front. This particular battery is pretty good for this model because when you put that lid in, it basically, the foam holds it in place so it's not going anywhere. So it's just the right size and it's the right weight to get CG. So far, after running a few packs through this and being quite rough with it, it's actually survived pretty well. The foam does feel quite tough, it's EPP. I took a chunk out of it here as you saw in the flying. What I did do is I cut one of these mould pieces out of the inside of the hatch here, and it was really hard to tear in half, so it seems quite durable foam. The only thing I don't like about it is actually there's a lot of these holes from the mould. They're all over the place, which can't be great for the aerodynamics of it, but you know, it's not exactly a high performance model. So overall, it's kind of hard to recommend this one to anyone just because it's a fairly cheap build quality. It's a bit strange with the backwards stabilizer and the hot glue in the ESC. But having said that, the fact that you can take off and land on land and water makes this really good fun, and I really do enjoy flying it. The other thing is, it's maybe on the slightly expensive side for what it is. It's $150 for the P&P kit from the EU warehouse, which, you know, when you consider you could get a Talon GT for a little bit more than this, just makes it feel a little bit overpriced. So the next thing now is, do I invest some time in putting FPV gear in this and taking it to a big lake near me? What do you guys reckon? Thanks for watching.